Hello, everybody. Welcome to Market Moves. I'm Jason, the Wizard of Ops. With me, as always, is Jay, Dark Matter, who is our, I guess we could call you now our swing trading all-star, right? How you doing?
Good. Wiz, I'm doing excellent. It was a nice, fun weekend for us here. We celebrated Mother's Day. I'm sure you did as well with Jill. So, but the weather was just tremendous. So couldn't ask for a better weekend in my opinion.
Yeah, it's this one, the weather really cooperated with Mother's Day. I think we had a nice day yesterday in DC mainly. So, yeah. So Friday was nothing. So we got like nothing to talk about, right?
I mean, Friday was a whole lot of nothing, but over the weekend was a whole lot of something, right?
Oh,
So
really? I got to check my phone. I didn't even notice.
Right. The market didn't go anywhere over the past few hours, right?
Totally flat. Huh? Okay, good. I'm looking at SPX. It hasn't moved.
Yeah. Well, just wait a little bit. Once that bell rings, I'm sure that number's going to fluctuate just a little bit.
Oh, it's going to move today? Okay. Tell me about it, Jay.
Well, let me tell you about it. All right. I'll take you through this journey. No, I will not take you through a journey, but yeah, we had overnight. A few of us had a thesis going into the weekend that I think Trump is getting a little over this whole trade war, and lo and behold, at least surprisingly, shockingly, there has been some sort of deal with China overnight. So that has propelled the stock market. We traded the high at about 58.50 SPX. We hit overnight here in futures action. So we're just a few points shy of that right now, but we bulldozed right through 5,700. We bulldozed through 5,750, and overnight the announcement came with the details, kind of the joint statement, and that got us up to 58.50. So just a massive short squeeze is how I would look at this. Wiz, we officially wiped out all of Liberation Day sell-off, or at least from that day onward, I should say, right? So 57.50 was kind of that trigger. So if we hold above that, what trade war, what tariffs, what have we been doing the past few weeks? Liz here, it feels like it's all been wiped out.
Yeah, I have yet to read that statement, but the things that come across my phone saying that it was basically U.S. kind of capitulated, but it seems like based on the Wall Street Journal breakdown, it seems like it wasn't so much capitulation; it was more de-escalation. Like we just stopped, like randomly throwing extra tariffs on them because they're tariffing us. It's like I don't know, but anyway, we'll see. I still have to read the statement. Did you read the statement yet?
I mean, I read the headline statements, I should say, right? It was a little pretty late when it came out, but I'm kind of in agreement with you. I don't think like this is a huge win by any means. Like we twisted arms and now we're all of a sudden going to see cheaper stuff, and they're going to pay for those tariffs, right? I think ultimately, I don't know. Let's see how it goes. I'm not sure if this is going to shift the economy, manufacturing jobs as one would have perceived.
Yeah. I feel bad for any like small businesses too, who are probably getting crushed by this. And now, if they have like monthly shipments or something in April 2nd, now May 12th. So, I mean, it's a month of basically impossible expenses on their ledger. So, as a small business owner myself, I guess I, even though I don't really import anything from China, I do sympathize with all those small business owners. What is it, like 33 million small businesses in America? So, yeah. Anyway, but let's see. Guess people are watching not for sympathy, but for how do I trade? So, I guess you talk about that, Jay. What are we looking at?
Yeah, let's. So although I guess one thing that Bessonette did say is that, the UK and the Swiss would be their next kind of trading partners that they're going to focus on. Shocked that I didn't hear India at all in that statement, but albeit. So I think we've got a little bit of volatility, call it on the trade war side of the tariff business now. But that doesn't mean we're out of the clear, right? What you're going to start to see this week is we go back to being data centric catalysts, right? So Tuesday, tomorrow, we've got the CPI. For those who care about what's happening in the world, the UK has their employment change as well, if that's important to you. Wednesday is just a slew of Fed speakers. I love how it's like right after the CPI, right? So that way they can look all smart and, hey, I told you so kind of moment. So you got a bunch of them Wednesday. And then Thursday, Mr. Chair Powell speaks as well. He'll be at a forum of some kind in DC, speaking to a group. And then we've got the UK GDP that day as well. We've got PPI that day, retail sales, unemployment claims, Empire State Manufacturing, and the Philly Fed. I've never seen all of those on the same day, just FYI. Typically, you'd have like PPI and maybe a day or whatever retail sales. It's just odd that the two are on the same day. So just a heads up on that one. And then last but not least, we'll round up the week with consumer sentiment and inflation expectations, which was horrendous last time we had those numbers. So, any thoughts?
I mean, the CPI is going to be interesting to me because, now we're going to have a month of tariffs, and you're going to see exactly what that impact is on the consumer price index. And same thing too with producer index, because there's a lot of raw materials that we import too. So I'm very interested to see what CPI produces, and it could be a little bearish. I mean, it's going to be. I'm actually more curious to see what the expectations are for CPI. Hold on. I'm going to put myself on mute. You could keep talking about like your next thing. I'm going to see what the consumer expectations are.
Yeah, no worries. Sounds good. While you do that, the other, not biggie, but we still do have earnings going on. So, the only one that really stuck out to me that I care, especially from an economy standpoint, will be Walmart. That's an always important one from consumer discretionary and just spending from a retail standpoint. Just because of China, Alibaba might be one that some folks care about. Last but not least, because I love their food, Wiz Kava reports earnings as well on Thursday. So I care just because of that. And I do own some shares of Kava, so I'm not going to lie. So I do like the chain. That's like one of those Warren Buffett plays, how he says like, hey, invest in things that you like and use. And, like that is exactly one of those plays for me.
Yeah, bring that up again. Bring up that thing again. Because I wasn't, again, I was looking at the expectations. We'll play that game in a minute. But looks like Thursday is the big earnings day with Walmart, Alibaba. Alibaba, though, those earnings just, I haven't even looked at any analysis yet. Short gamma, because all of our options and stuff like that are all like it. I don't know. Alibaba seems to get it. Not investment advice, and in fact, probably I'll be releasing an earnings newsletter about it, earnings Substack about it. But it looks like Thursday is the big day.
Yeah, I would say Thursday's the big day. And I guess the other one I didn't notice last night when I was looking at this, but just because it's got a lot of eyeballs on it, Bill Ackman has recently been big investor, is Hertz. So I just want to see that one. That to me is like watching, I got my popcorn ready tonight to see what its earnings are going to do. I'm just curious. By no means am I going to be investing in that one. I'm just curious what happens.
Yeah. If I were investing in any kind of restaurant that I like, none of them are public. They're all like holes in the wall kind of thing like this. I don't, That's kind of Kava is okay though. I wouldn't mind going to Kava. I like them.
I like Kava. You can get some really healthy choices, still fill you
Yeah.
up, right? It's the hummus is pretty good there, so I can't complain. I can't complain. All right, let's jump into our key level. So I do have to go forward here because we went, we had a bunch of volatility and
Oh,
or
I see.
volatility that
All your
crushed and
yeah.
yeah, so like, at one point I was like, 5800 looks like a good, wing for the week, and then we blew through 5750 and I was like, all right, let's update the levels. So, I mean, off the bat here, 5710 was a key critical gamma pivot. We did that overnight. I will still use that as kind of a key critical level going through the week, especially if we get any sell-offs, bad data, so 5710 in between this kind of 5660 zone here is pretty supportive in the market. There's, charm was the initial, so ignore the charm there. That was the, zero DTE view that will obviously change here as the market opens in a little bit. But we do have some Vanna that sits there as well, some positive Vanna. So unless volatility does exactly what it did last month, that's a pretty supportive area in the market now that at least in the interim, keep an eye out for 5710, kind of this 5660. I really honestly cannot get like bearish, let's say, Wiz, if I'm trying to swing anything, do anything overnight, or I think a trend is occurring, it doesn't start until you break up that zone now at this point in time. So that's kind of first and foremost where we're at. Well, the acceleration 5750, when I was looking at Van and Gamma yesterday, this was no longer a wall, but just kind of like an interim speed bump is how I kind of look at these. And that's exactly what it was. We opened the market yesterday, last night, right? We hit 5750. We sold back down near this 5710. To be quite exactly, it was 5714 to be on the dot. And then we pushed back up. And then right when we were about to test this level again is when we had the China-US, joint statement. So that became an accelerator, and we hit all the way, to my next, couple targets here now, 5850, where there's a little bit of gamma at this level. But honestly, the main inflection zone where you have Vanna and gamma is really that 5880, 5900 level here. So I'll quickly pause. Let me, jump over here to now kind of show this to everyone what I was highlighting, but I'll quickly pause. Wiz, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we could look at Volland because right now at this point, even Volland right now, like you're going to get a certain level of thing, but it's going to be from 5,600. Like once that price changes, all these things are going to, all these levels are going to kind of change a little bit. So it's why, you can't just rely on our free newscasts and market move shows and Substacks, because things move. And when they move,
Yes.
that's the most opportunistic, but B, I can't give you free, things are moving right now. I can't help that much. But from 5,600 though, that huge negative right there, it's almost like customers have done a almost like an opposite butterfly, right?
Yeah.
This is Vanna.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird, there's been a lot of option selling, especially on like the 0 to 1 DTE tenor. There's been a lot of option selling. I feel bad for, I don't feel bad because it's, part of the business, but all those 1 DTE Condor people, they just got destroyed. Like it wasn't that much. There wasn't that much implied volatility going into this weekend. But the one thing I would call out, you had a lot of list of continuation, and you could see all the way up to those like 3 green bars. It's really flat.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
The only one was
stopping
this one
from getting up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. A hiccup maybe. But what are those twin towers over there? Like what level is that? Is that 58.50
This
or something?
58.8. This is 58.80 and 58.87.
875.
58.75. Excuse me.
So that's probably what was the overnight high?
58.50 was the overnight high.
Oh, okay. So I mean, we could even like go up there. We could creep up a little bit. Obviously, fundamental news can get us to blow past that, but that's the area I would start scaling back any kind of longs that you have. I mean, we've been at last week. Remember, we were saying like this is a buy the dip time, and we even hinted like maybe all time highs in like June timeframe. Now it doesn't seem so unrealistic, right?
No, it definitely. I mean, we were in the Discord. I mentioned that, right? And it was like, no way. And I was like, was I teased us? I promise you, I thought it was insane as well. But it's not so insane now when you're looking at, smiling and laughing at 5,900 again here on the SPX. Of course,
Yeah.
not
So now we're only
everything
like
goes
200
up.
points away, right?
Yeah, we're only exactly just a couple of 100 points away from all-time highs. So
Right.
again, not everything goes up in a straight line, right? There will be some retracements, and this zone, to your point, is one if you have been long, whether from last week, since 4,900, 4,950, excuse me, wherever you've been long from, this is probably an opportunity that I would start to take some profit now. For sure.
Yeah. Start scaling back. That's probably that's my plan anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's why I just go to say, like, yes, there might be a short here, a few points, but like this thing can still run up a little bit more. I think ultimately this is on track to kind of hitting a zone in between here near 5,900 essentially. So I think we land somewhere there. Then we see a retracement. Let's see what the data updates, after the market opens here. But I thought that was interesting. The other thing that I thought was interesting, going back here to Volland for just a second, the VIX as well. The VIX, we've been, let me just pull it up here. What are we now at? We're just trading shy of 20 on the VIX, and that changed tremendously, I would say, as well, Wiz, right? Where we can find any momentum south of 25 for the past week or month. We finally cracked 25 over the past week or two, and now we're starting at 20. And I think this can go down a little bit more. When I was looking at some of my analysis on it, this can go down to an 18 handle. I think is the next area where you start to see, I'd be wary of going short on vol at that point. I think an 18 handle is pretty non-vol for Trump administration. So I think there's a little bit of a tide coming shortly, but by no means do I think it's what we saw in April and, VIX going over a 30 handle or something like that.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think like VIX, implied volatility the long-term average is 16, so to speak. And I haven't checked the long-term average recently, but, we used to have single digits. Remember those days? But, at this point, we didn't have as high Vanna, and somebody had actually asked me at one point, how could I be so bullish when Vanna is only like 2.5 billion for the rest of the week? This is OPEX week, right? That's one thing that you didn't quite mention in your list. But it was only like 2.5 billion at the time. And I said, yeah, but implied volatility is at 22. So you got a lot more room, that you're going to get a lot more juice for your squeeze for that 2.5 billion, right? Because you've got 20 points of vol to crash instead of just the typical 16 15 kind of thing. So I think that implied volatility will have the vol crush will have an impact, and I do want to see Volland update and see where we're going, but I think like around that 5,900 is a time to start scaling back. Even though like we said, all-time highs are still on the table, but you're not going to catch every point with your full portfolio, right? Like just scale back, to play the odds, right? Play the odds.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, if we were only at 57.50, I would say, I think we have an opportunity to keep going. But by the time the market opens up here in about 40 minutes or so, think about it. We're not the only ones here thinking about taking profit, right? There's going to be a lot of people, especially who are stuck prior to Liberation Day, entered positions, whatever the case might be. And now they're coming into the monthly OPEX. They're like, wow, I get to restart above or maybe at the levels that I entered. What a great opportunity to exit out of that, right? So keep that in mind. That's what a lot of traders are going to be thinking at the same time as they open the market today. So
and there'll probably be a short squeeze too, because there'll be people who shorted 200 points down and saying, oh, these tariffs are going to disrupt the economy, all that kind of stuff. I mean, those short people, they're going to have to squeeze. They have to sell. If you're long, you're just holding the bag. But if you're short, you have to sell.
Today's dynamic is going to be pretty interesting. You're so right. Like, you've got OPEX week on top of it, right? So it's like just natural chaos. Not like people are going to be frantic. Like, I thought Trump was going to bring the end of the world, right? And they're now facing 200 points of a squeeze.
Yeah. I think from my positioning standpoint, I think that the big rallies, I was saying all last week, like we said last week, buy the dip. I think Wednesday is when you could start being more cautious. The next Tuesday, not tomorrow, but the following Tuesday, is usually when, those kind of hiccups can begin. There is less Vanna on June OPEX than there is on May, a considerable amount. So that's kind of where I would start looking, possibly a little bit of a drawback, but June does have a lot of support. So it might be a slight drawback, and then we might hit all-time highs like going into June. But that's kind of the and that's all based on positioning. Like, fundamentally, you kind of have to do a different, you have to just keep an eye on the fundamentals nowadays. But I'll tell you another thing when we were talking about implied volatility. Last week was FOMC. Did anybody notice? Like,
no,
there was not really much eventful for it.
No, I wanted to give you kudos, because you were one of the few folks that actually had hey, I don't think there's going to be any volatility for this FOMC, and you're pretty dead on. I mean, it was literally nothing, right? Like, we just traded within range that Thursday. So kudos, by the way. So that there was no reason to freak out after when we saw him Wednesday.
Well, I knew that, he wasn't going to do anything. I was actually shocked because I thought his Jerome Powell, that is, his chatter was very bearish in my mind as far as the economy goes. He's like, he was bringing up what our plans would be for stagflation, right? Like, he was bringing that up, and he's like, higher unemployment and higher inflation. He's like, we have to measure, see which one is more, and I thought that was pretty bearish, and it turned out we ended up closing up 30 points or something. Didn't kind of flat, but I was like, that I don't know. That seemed like a more bearish comments than bullish. But hey, what do I know?
No, it did. Well, and if you saw how interest rates cuts and everything, they got repriced, right? I think June's interest rate cuts, or the expectations, I should say, I think we were at over 100 or something like that, crazy, right? And then after
maybe over 100,
at 100, excuse me. I think the odds changed to 38 or 40%, something along those lines, right? They drastically shifted. So again, you're not going to get any surprise out of Jay Powell, right, Wiz? So I unless we see the data shift, it's that's when his mindset's going to shift.
Well, yeah, I think that first of all, you're right. He doesn't surprise. He's very steady, steady course. But for a long time, people have been fretting about how reliant we were on the Fed and their interest rates to move markets or to, move the economy. And this is, with the Trump presidency, for the first time in a while, fiscal policy has taken the wheel of the market as opposed to monetary. And that's kind of why I thought that, you're saying it was me, but it wasn't just me. Like, customers were not hedging. Event vol was not inflated all that much. It was inflated by like, 5 points or something like that. 5 straddle dollars. You know what I mean? Like, it was barely anything. I was like, that's kind of shocking, and nobody hedged. And usually when you see something like that, it's something that should raise alarm bells, but it also means that nobody cares because no customer, the dealers they're not the ones with adverse selection here. The customers are. So if the customers don't care, it's almost like Jerome Powell can say anything. And, unless it's like extreme other side, you know what I mean? Unless he's saying, cuts 100 points or something like that. Most people are recognizing that fiscal's driving the bus right now, not monetary. So,
yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you there. Well, and we clearly saw that here with one statement. We're up almost 3%, or we're up over 3%. So I want to go back really quickly. You're talking about just OpEx, right? I find it interesting here. This is June's OpEx, right? 5,400 here is clearly showing as a level of interest to me. And then I also kind of see 5,600 here. So, again, going back to what I said earlier, I don't think any major sell-off can occur until you get, past below 5,650, call it, right? But I think ultimately seeing how June is just developing here, like this is a pivotal level, 5,600 going into. Right? Yeah, that is. Yep.
So it's 600 call. Yeah.
Yep.
But that 5,400's been there all year. I think that there are some funds that hedge for like half the year or, the full year. And so you're going to get that a lot in June, being the 6th month. So it's half the year, literally. And, so you're going to get that. The one thing that is curious to me is I'm looking above price and that looks like net negative. What happened there? What do you look?
I know there's nothing here. If you notice that, I mean, and this is 5,900. If you're curious about what that level is,
yeah, interesting. I mean, that to me is more interesting, and it could say, there could be continuation up. All right.
That's. I mean, and you also have like June is the quarterly OpEx as well, if you want to call it that. So there will be a lot of shifting of positioning between this month and next month, to your point, I think we'll start to see their hand a little bit more here in Volland by the end of this week.
Yeah. But it's that June positioning, which has made me think there's a chance that we can get to all-time highs again in June. I wasn't thinking, we're going to get there by the end of May or something. But by June, like,
there's a good chance of a retest.
Yeah, you can't put it out, right? You can't just say no on that front. So, all right. Do you have anything else you want to bring up, or we could go through some of our comments? One comment.
Comments.
All right. So one comment we had from last week. Which was for the rest of this week. I can't even put it up because it's private, because it was from last week. It's not from this week. They quoted me, for the rest of this week, we saw a lot of call selling, which increased Vanna, and that's me talking. This bullish run could stretch into tomorrow, albeit kind of strained. They asked, does this mean customers are selling calls and MMs are long? Yes. When I say somebody is call selling or put buying or something like that, those are customers. Dealers are accepting orders. They don't have an opinion, right? They have a process. So they get these, long calls, customers sell the calls, covered calls or whatever. They sell them. And then dealers just have to accept whatever traffic they are given. So when I say somebody is selling something or buying something, those are that's always customer. I know that's my lexicon, and it's kind of, something that I've gotten used to speaking, and it's not even shorthand. It's just the way I express things. But yeah, if I ever do that, it is a weakness of mine. So if I ever do that and I start talking in jargon or something that's unclear, please ask me about it. I will explain why it is jargon or why I speak that way, and I'll clarify for you. So yeah, that's what I got for that one, Jay. Oh, Derek's talking about working capital requirement changes. I guess that's is he talking? What is that in reference to, Derek?
I think that's in reference to just the shifting of balancing and positioning and whatnot that will occur here as the market opens.
Okay. Augustine is asking about GME. What, Augustine? SPX isn't volatile enough for you? Yeah, you might have to check out GME and AMC. Augustine, this is like last, or what is that, 2 years ago news, man. GME, isn't that over?
I have not traded that stock since those days. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, all right, we'll bring it up. I'll answer the next question while
all right. 1 second.
So what do the customers want? What do they want? Yuli's talking about VIX. VIX is expiring next Wednesday. Can you explain how VIX expiration mechanism affects the markets, especially when it occurs after OPEX? So it's an interesting question, because we've done minimal study. We've only kind of looked at the impacts on the market what kind of impacts there are pre-OPEX and post-OPEX of Volex. And so far we have not yet seen a trend, but so far it's been only very like surface level, just like, okay, these are the dates that Volex was before OPEX, and these were the dates that Volex was after OPEX. What is the difference? I think that one of the big things is when volatility expiration is after OPEX, there is more, they use options at times as one of a series of hedging for Volex. So, like usually it's like a what do they call it? A tape of options, like where it simulates the VIX, right? And I think when it's afterward, you have to account for the fact that the strip is wider, right? And because it's, for the next month, but with 0 DTE, I think it matters less. So I think, the answer is undetermined. Our surface level studies have shown that there has been a change since 0 DTE was brought into play. And really weekly options have been brought into play for like the following Friday. So the answer is that continually evolves as the option offerings evolve. Do you have any kind of like even opinions on the Volex OPEX dynamic?
I mean, I just know that you typically will see a lot of volatility going into that expiration. No relationship in terms of before or after. I don't have any tidbits for you there, but I've just noticed, especially over the past few months, like the volatility the day before VIX expiration is pretty tremendous, right? Like whether positive or negative, however you want to look at it. But if you look at more February, you look at March's expiration, the day before a lot of those expiration days, like it was pretty volatile as heck, right? And even the overnight futures action was pretty volatile as well. So I'm in agreement with you. Like they're just hedging all over the place, honestly. Like it's not just one single instrument with this much, skew and volatility across the board. I think I'm with you, Wiz. I see what you mean. of where they're going to hedge some VIX, they're going to hedge some SPX, right? Like there's not one single instrument. I do see that 100%. Yes.
Yeah, I think there's something there. We're going to have to bring in some outside metrics, do some, probably some linear regressions controlling for our Vanna exposure. And, let's just say we have some statistical studies to do on that front. And we will at some point in time. Right now, it's just kind of more, there's a long to-do list of things to do with our data. And that is one of them. I think
what's also what's hard to just kind of like, to your point, unless you go in there and look at the data and tear it apart more mathematically, a lot of the VIX happen during key fall kind of event days, right? So is it volatility or is it the event that is triggering that? So like you really have to get in there and do the study. Like I can give you my analysis, but by no means am I going to go bank on it saying it does this. I have no data to say that.
But right, and that's kind of my point, is that we still have like studies to do, and right now it's just kind of what's that word, where it's more like a subjective kind of feeling about expiration on those days. But yeah, like the Fed meetings happen every 45 days. Which means every other month we're getting, the VIX expiration and Fed day is the same day, or around the same day. So, yeah, you're right. That is tough. All right. So let's see. That's all our comments. Did you get GME all up?
GME, here you go. Here's your Vanna, all expirations.
Are those all calls? Like what is it? So GME is actually kind of strange. If you look at if you minimize this, go to GME spot vol correlation.
Yes. Okay. 1 second. Let me just add that on here. Oops.
Yeah. So GME spot vol correlation is different, and this is, I kind of have different definitions than everybody else does about, pretty much everything, honestly. But my definition of a meme stock is a stock where the spot vol correlation is positive, which means as VIX goes up, so does the market. So does the underlying. And you can see, what does that slope say?
0.77 positive.
So that means as implied volatility goes up, so does the market. So does GME. And that to me is a meme stock, right? Like that's because there's so many people that are buying calls instead of selling them, that it creates gamma runs on the way up. And it's been like this since the whole meme GME thing. So with that in mind, that positive Vanna is not actually a great thing, right? The skew in GME is almost backwards, right? It's like, it's not very straight. So you could almost say that, whatever that number is down there, was that 20, what? 25? 25. Yeah. That might be your target, right? When DJT, when Trump was running, and that was a meme stock. Yes, that was definitely a meme stock because the forwards were projecting downside. Yeah, you couldn't buy a put on DJT without actually getting penalized for it. Your thoughts, like how do you treat these meme stocks? Now, just a note, I do not trade these at all. Like I actually did when it was like the pop, when it was shooting up 1,000% and implied volatility was 1,000. I was doing butterflies like crazy because they were the cheapest things in the world. Like I was doing like 100 wide butterflies on GME when it was at like 100. Like, by 100 wide, I mean like 50 from the short to the long strike. I was doing 50 wide butterflies and getting paid big because it was so cheap. I couldn't believe how cheap they were. It's because I was buying and selling all 50 delta strikes too. It was It was fantastic. That's like when I love those kind of opportunities where it's just all you need is really option structure to change, and you can make some serious money on it.
Yeah, well, so go just really quickly on GME here. Like I'm with you. Even if you look at Gamma here, Wiz, like 30-25, right? Like, you're essentially pinned here. Like, I mean, again, I don't trade this stock, so I don't have any macro view of it or anything of that sense, right? It doesn't look great to the upside. I'll leave it at that. I would not be trading this to the upside. If anything, I would probably wait for post earnings or whenever its earnings are to take a trade on it. And, after that volatility has been crushed, then I think you're going to have a better, first of all, better risk reward. But you're either going to be here and trading back down or vice versa. And so you'll have a better entry is how I look at it.
Now you can probably get a good price on a butterfly now. So
true. Yeah.
Yuli is asking a technical question from you, DM. See, you sometimes zoom into a widget. How do you zoom without shifting the other widgets?
Yeah.
Show us how to do it.
So, I mean, I've kind of gotten, again, based on.
No, I hit the button. You know what the button is.
Well, so
you know what I'm
going, so yeah.
There you go.
What was right there? See the little square, the full screen, boom,
yeah,
boom, just like that.
There you go. Yuli, you got it?
And you can just for, I do have like a MacBook, so this is my poor man's version of doing what I just tried to do there before Wiz and team put that nice full screen. Was I used to zoom in. I don't know if you remember this. I went back to look at a show and I did this, and you're like, what the hell are you doing? There's now that button. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize that button was there.
Yeah, there's a lot of like little things that we put in here because of customer feedback. So Eula used the feedback channel, and the linking feature was a big one that we did because of feedback. The screener was a big one that we wanted because of feedback. Historicals we did because of feedback. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and for those, like the way that I have it resolution on mine just set up, I'm like at a zoom of 67% here on this resolution. When I'm on my larger resolution, I'm like at a 90%. So the widgets look a lot bigger. But this is a great thing, Wiz. Here to me, it's like an Android phone. You choose your layout, how you prefer it. Do you want bigger, medium size, small size widgets? So your team has really done a good job of what's your preference. You like it this way, then go ahead and select it this way. Or if you don't like it, here's an option for you as well.
Yeah. All right. So those are all our comments. It's almost game time here in 15 minutes, Jay. So any parting words? Any last minute advice for everybody who's getting blown out or getting rich right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you've been long in the market, I think it's time to start locking some in those those trades at this point in time, and let's reassess here. Be a little bit more patient today if you're trading intraday or on a weekly kind of time frame. Give it a little bit more time today, this morning. Let the data update, do its thing, and then you'll see a little bit more clarity and picture from the market.
Yep. I agree with all that. So, all right, everybody, may Volland help you in your future trading ventures.